Prestige worldwide. Why?
Prestige worldwide.
Prestige Worldwide welcomes you to the following presentation of the League of Extraordinary Dicks.
Hello and welcome to the Week 4 review of the L.E.D. I'm joined here by Cody today. We're a man short, unfortunately. We're missing Drew. Not sure what's going on with him, but we're going to make it through, no problem. I am, as always, Pino Cornflakes, bringing you the Week 4 recap. So, Cody, how's it going, man? Doing all right?
It's good, buddy. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's always good seeing you, man, especially on the nice Tuesday night. Honestly, it was a wild week of fantasy football, was it not? I mean, there was a couple games that came down to Monday Night Football of all things between Giants and Seahawks, and we'll get into that. Not a huge, not a lot of injuries. There's injuries, but nothing too significant. Honestly, I don't believe. So
fortunately,
yeah,
Deshaun Watson didn't play this week due to a shoulder injury. Justin Herbert got his non-throwing hand stepped on, but was able to finish out the game. Matt Stafford had a hip injury, says he's going to be good to go next week. I had Mike Evans pull up with a little bit of a hammy, but he says it's expected to be a mild hamstring, but he's probably going to end up missing next week. Other than that, I think that's about it for major names.
Major injuries.
So, fortunately, nothing devastating so far, which is always good. We want to keep our good players playing.
Yeah. And the other thing that I kind of wanted to touch on, and which is, it's so bizarre to me that this is the LED, and there has not been a trade. Usually there's a trade by week 3. This is different. This year is different already.
Everyone's keeping their cards close to the chest. But yeah. I'll tell you, it's not from lack of trying, because I've definitely sent out several trades, just not able to get anything going.
Yeah, I've had a few offers, and I haven't bit, and I don't know. Right now, I'm kind of playing the wait and see game still. So,
I will say I'm kind of going with this. I love trading, I really do, but I have this internal battle of I want to trade, but do I need to trade? Because I don't want to trade and then put myself in a worse position just because I wanted to trade.
Yeah, you don't want to kind of screw yourself knowing that, I just want to do a trade and end up being the worst move that you could have possibly made for yourself. But
so before we jump into the games, I just wanted to give everybody a quick playoff standings at this point, obviously with it being week 4, but just wanted to give everybody a quick 1 through 12. Carolina Reign in first place, got Dirty Skivvies in second, and Carolina Reign has the points advantage. It's a very, very narrow points advantage with Joe.
Very narrow right now. With
Joe consistently putting up 100 plus. But so Carolina Reign's got the point advantage there. Third place got Hugh Hefner at 3-1. And then we jump into 5 teams at a 2-2 record. So number 4 is going to be Peepin' Tomlinson's. Number 5 is Chicken Little Flea Flicker. Number 6, Grizzly Adams Beards. Number 7, One-Eyed Monsters. Number 8 is you and Pino Cornflakes. Number 9 are defending champ, 4th and Schlong. 10, Happy Little TDs. 11, Player Haters. And 12, Still City. So that's our current standings after week 4.
Yeah, it's just amazing to me that we have 5 teams sitting at 2-2 right now. I mean, it's just the LED for you. That's just what happens in this league. It's just we beat the crap out of each other. It's just what happens every year. There's a few people that cut away from the pack, whether it be good or bad. But outside of that, the middle of the pack usually it comes down to the last week, and it's just a dogfight into the end. So,
and I wouldn't have it any other way.
No, it's good stuff. It's really good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and start with the Happy Little TDs and the One-Eyed Monsters, because this game came down to legitimately Monday Night Football. And if you kept an eye on this game going into it, a lot of people would be like, Bowen's got it locked up. I mean, it's a defense against, and he was playing what? He was up 15 roughly
Yeah, it was
15 or 20.
Yeah,
He was
15,
up
20.
He was up by a lot, and it was just the defense playing. And man, Jeff, you had some good juju going your way, buddy. 30 points from a defense to win you the game on Monday Night Football is insanity. Insanity. Now, I will say, and I this is the reason I want to start with this matchup. And I'm going to look right into the camera. Jeff, I'm sorry for bashing your team. Okay? You found a quarterback in Brock Purdy. You did. And
He did.
He has been lights out. He's consistent. He's just everything you need in a fantasy quarterback. And I apologize. And with you picking up Puka's been an absolute monster for you. The defense carried you to this win. And Bowen, I am so sorry. It feels like I have to say this every week. Dude, I'm pulling for you hard, but man, you were just getting the wrong end of the stick each time. Neither team had really weak spots. Tight end is, I think, everybody's weakness right now, outside of Sarah and Ross. I think the tight end is just what it is right now, and I don't really know. Everybody else played phenomenally. It's just, again, Bowen got the bad end of the stick because the defense just showed up. But yeah, Jeff, I'm sorry. I keep bashing your team, but look, you got a consistent quarterback who's playing really good right now, very good football. And I don't know what's going to happen when Cooper Kupp comes back. I doubt Puka's going to lose targets. He'll lose a few, but I think Puka's just good enough to solidify himself as the number 2 guy over there in L.A. So I think Puka's going to be there for a while, doing what he's doing. So kudos, man. It was a good game all around for you. And Bone, dude, I'm still saying you're not Princess this year. I don't know who is, but it's not you. But I'm really, if you keep running into buzzsaws each week, it's going to be rough.
Yeah, he absolutely got shafted. I mean, you have the dominating performance from Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown putting up a combined 54 points. I mean, that's just a hell of a start. Brandon Ayuk decided he wanted to wake up this week. Alexander Madison just ran all over the Panthers. And, I mean, just from top to bottom, without going into specifics, I mean, he had a great game. And they had enough to win. In most cases, and again, we're still figuring out what things are like in this half-point era of the L.E.D, but in most cases, historically, if you get over 100 points, their chances of winning are very, very good.
Yeah.
So
yes.
he did what he had to do to get to that point. Just luck bit him in the ass a little bit.
Mm-hmm. It's just incredible to me. He's had a few games now that he's had over 100, and he's just got bitten. And it's unfortunate, but I don't think Bowen needs to hit the panic button just yet.
No,
I think he's fine.
not.
I think he's fine, and I take back everything I've ever said bad about Jeff's team because he's got a very consistent quarterback. Puka's going to be there, I feel like, the rest of the year. Even when Cooper Kupp comes back, he's still going to be there. He's going to be a nice little outlet just in case Cooper's not open. So Puka's going to be good. He still has Garrett Wilson. Now, if he can rotate a defense that's going to score him, I don't think that 30 points is unreal numbers to get
No.
You're not going to get that every week. But if he can rotate a defense in and out, that's going to get him production each week. He'll be fine. I think Jeff will be fine. That's what I got on that. I wanted to start with that one because I feel like each week it's just kind of like we're bashing Jeff, and at this point, it's like I'm not going to talk about it no more because Party's so consistent. So
yeah, I've been a pretty staunch defender of Jeff because I like his roster, and the record doesn't reflect the talent, and someone's going to have to lose one of these games. That's just what it comes down to. But he's got a lot of talent, especially in the running back position. We're going to talk about your boy David Montgomery, but Jahmyr Gibbs still had a respectable night.
Yeah, he did.
Even with David Montgomery dominating as much as he did. So, and then keep in mind, he didn't just have Seattle putting up those points. He also had Tyler Lockett. And I've touched on it several times. It could be that boom or bust player for him. So he's got some players on the bench too. Najee Harris decided he wanted to play a little bit. Can he sustain that success? Marquise Hollywood Brown had a very good game. So he's got some talent there. And I don't know what the story is with Kyler Murray, if he's going to be able to come back or not. But at this point, like you said, he may not need Kyler Murray to come back because Brock Purdy's just playing so well.
Purdy is just very consistent, and he's smart with his choices, and he's smart with the ball. I'm not going to say underrated because I think everybody knows what Purdy's capable of at this point, but he's, I think, taken for granted because it's Brock Purdy, and you got all these weapons, and you got Debo that could run it. You got McCaffrey who's just playing out of his mind this year.
I have a lot to say about San Francisco coming forward.
There's a lot to touch on with San Francisco's offense, but if Purdy just give it to your playmakers like he's been, he'll be fine. And I think he'll be very consistent with everything going forward. But yeah, no, good win for Jeff. Unfortunate for Bowen. Hate that for him, but it's just the way it is, man. I mean, that's so hard to. That's a hard one to swallow. If I was Bowen, I'd be a little upset about that one.
But if I am Jeff, though, I have to take a little bit of a victory lap here because, like I just said, Jeff is the first team out of the playoffs right now, and for as hard as we've dogged his team on this podcast, I would take a little bit of victory lap if I was Jeff.
Oh yeah, he definitely deserves it. Especially, I mean, it's only 4 weeks in, right? So I mean, everybody's going to be kind of jumbled up together, but to still be in the fight is very important right now to be in that fight. So. Going to go ahead and move forward to your matchup against Sarah Chicken Little Flea Flicker. Underwhelming, I think, is the word to use. Right? It wasn't that. It's not like you were playing with injuries. It's just your guys didn't play like they've been playing. What's that? I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Aiken? Aisen? The guy behind
A-Chain.
most. Yeah.
Or A-Chan. Sorry, he corrected us. His name's A-Chan now. Devon A-Chan.
Unbelievable talent. 2 weeks now has been an unbelievable talent, and it's almost like he's stealing carries from Monster. But
he 100% is. And I thought I was going to be worried about Jeff Wilson. This A-Chain guy just comes out of nowhere and completely dogs Mostert early.
Yep. So. I mean, respectable numbers for Tyreek Hill. He's not putting up his astronomical numbers that he's been putting up. Mike Evans, unfortunately, got hurt for you. Still put up 5.5 points. It's not bad at all. Josh Jacobs, did they finally find the run game with him? And they use him a lot in outlet passes, but I don't know if that had a lot to do with O'Connell being their starting quarterback, their 4th-round rookie. But he very good game for him. Kirk Cousins, a little bit of a dud. But, I mean, you had DK Metcalf who scored. I just seen Elliott's numbers. That's insane. 19.8 points. That's great. That's incredible. You were riding so high that it felt like everybody on that roster would produce so much, and then it just kind of flattened out a little bit. You still put up 89 points, which is still respectable. It's just you were doing 125, 130, 140. Like you were doing numbers that were – you broke a record. And now it's like, oh, did Cody come back down to earth a little bit?
I think I did a little bit. And to be honest with you, I picked a good week to have a bad week. You know what I'm saying? Like
you picked a good week to have a semi-dud. Because I would have taken almost 90 points any week and seeing if I could actually win that. But you had a semi-dud and still pulled it out. So Sarah, just injuries kind of hurt her a little bit. T. Higgins being injured and out of the game, and Javonte Williams, same thing. Injuries kind of plagued her this week. The C.J. Stroud pick, starting him over Burrow, kudos, smart. Right now, Burrow does not look like Burrow. And dealing with that calf injury is just not helping him at all. But Stroud seems to be the front runner for NFL Rookie of the Year. He's just lights out right now, especially against a strong Steelers defense, putting up 30 points.
And if I'm Sarah, like the T. Higgins injury hurts. But if we look on her bench with Nico Collins, that connection between CJ Stroud and Nico it looks legit, man. It looks very legitimate. I know it's because they have the Houston Texans beside their name. You wonder if it's real or not, but that looks like a legitimate connection going forward. And CJ Stroud just continues to put up great numbers. So, while T. Higgins is out, that she might not have any kind of drop off because she may have found a gem in the draft. So,
100%. And I think Sarah may be the only team in this league that is not having a problem with tight end. Her backup, Cole Kmet, put up 24 points. You're not going to start him over Kelsey, but you know that you have that security blanket in the back. If she would have started Collins, think she ends up winning if she takes out. Yeah, but you don't take out T. Higgins, so you don't really know what to do there. But now that you're seeing that there's a connection between Collins and Stroud, that it's probably going to be the better answer for you right now, especially if Higgins misses some time.
So one question that affects me and Sarah both is Justin Fields the real deal now? Because it looks like he played arguably the best game of his professional career this week. And so we're unsure if he's going to be able to have that continued success, because if he does, he went to Cole Kmet very often. He had 7 receptions on the day, which is, man, that's very good target volume. So if Justin Fields can sort of get back to how he finished in the last season, and the reason I drafted him so high was because of that, maybe a nice piece of trade bait for Sarah. You know, we know Sarah doesn't trade very often, but if she gets into a position where she needs it, I mean, tight end's a very valuable asset to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Tight end right now is a very scarce commodity. It's not something that everybody has. Trust me, I know. I had Musgrave this week and put up 0.6. So it's just like it's hard right now in this league to find steady tight end play. Even with the half PPR, it's not really giving us much. But Sarah right now looks like she's the only team that has it figured out. Just unfortunate. The team didn't really do much. She got hurt a couple times, and it just didn't really pan out the way she needed to. But hey, she's 2-2, so she's still in the fight. It's not like she's out of it. So
she's 2-2, and she's 2-1 in division. So if the season ended today, she would be in the playoffs. So she's got that to work with. A little thing to get her through the season with that 2-1 record before this season-long stretch through the non-divisional games.
So I think she'll be just fine, honestly. And then the last one that I'm going to cover is going to be Mr. Hugh Hefner and the Player Haters. This game was, I would say it was entertaining, to say the least, because Gino getting hurt could have, if he got hurt a little bit sooner and he stayed out for a little bit longer, Matt had a shot at this game, for sure. And I didn't even realize that this game came down to last night as well. Mark Andrews having 22.5 points, 2 touchdowns, big for Russ. I know he wanted to get Jones going in the run game, but I don't know if it was just maybe this week could have been a wait-and-see type deal. And then Addison not doing anything.
Big old goose egg.
Yep. Outside of that, Russ had very good production from his major players. Stephon Diggs, 3 touchdowns, I believe, this week.
Yep, 120 yards.
Derrick Henry and Mark Andrews, all over 20 points. That was tremendous in helping him win this one. There's really nothing bad you can say about what happened with Matt's team. And he picked up Ashan, right? Is that what we're going with?
Achan.
He might be the feature back coming soon. I don't know, Cody. I'm a little worried about your Mostert. But he's 25.5 points. Very solid. Chris Olave, he disappeared this week. Not really sure what happened there. I don't know if that had something to do with Derek Carr's shoulder injury. He wasn't really, spacing it out too much. Trevor Lawrence played respectably, made his points for him. But yeah, his running backs are very good. Bijan Robinson, 16.2. Achan, 25.5. Christian Kirk, I think I had a score Sunday morning. And then Baltimore's defense helped them out with 17 points. Overall, it was a very good game, very good matchup. It could have went either way. Did Russ have a lead with 8.7?
So what I was watching this one pretty closely too. Russ was a 99% favorite to win at the end of Sunday Night Football, and that's because Matt had no more players left. Russ had one or two more players left.
If Russ at the start of the game, Russ had 107.28, so Russ was technically winning.
Correct,
going into that game, but things could have happened.
He could have thrown 3 picks, had a fumble. Mm-hmm. I mean, anything could happen. I mean, Gino is getting to that, like, he's an established quarterback thing, but, like, a lot of us still have in the back of our mind, like, is this guy for real? Because I saw Gino, screw the pooch a lot at the beginning of his career, so I'm just not really sold that he's for real now. So anything could have happened at that point.
Yeah, Gino still scares me. I think he'll give you the consistent numbers that you're looking for, but he will have these kinds of games where he'll have 8 points, a because it's still, to me, it's still Geno Smith, if that makes any sense. Because Drew Lock came in and actually put together a respectable drive and scored. So if Geno were to have these games where he just kind of starts floundering, I'm not saying Drew Lock's the answer, but Drew Lock is at least respectable enough to go in there and make a drive happen.
We'll move on to your game because it was an absolute Monday night miracle. Monday night miracle. Kellen was at least a 80% favorite at one point to win this game going into Monday Night Football. So it's just a huge game for you. That's a huge win for you to bring you back to 500. So that's what you were hoping for, right? As you get Cooper Kupp back and start you getting Jonathan Taylor back.
Yeah.
Maybe Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
But we know Cooper Kupp's coming back. So, I mean, that's a huge one. And some of the things that just to look, I guess, looking at your team here, Lamar continues to do great running the football. He had 2 passing touchdowns as well as 2 rushing touchdowns. See, he can get away with throwing sub 200 yards because his game is so much supplemented by the run game. I mean, y'all know I'm a huge Cam fan, but that's a huge part of Lamar's game as it was Cam's, is because you can't tell the story of Lamar without his rushing abilities. So, and that is why we draft Lamar as high as we do, right?
Yes.
Devontae Adams, it's a very solid game. No touchdown, but
Scary.
Very high. Yeah, very high target volume and 75 yards.
Yeah.
I guess he's trying to be as best as he could a security blanket for, was it O'Connell's his name? Aiden O'Connell?
Yeah. Well, I was watching that game, unfortunately, because I didn't want to watch the blowout that Dallas was giving New England. And Devontae went out at one point in this game, and I panicked. I'll put it that way. I was like, oh, God, this is it. I just lost, blah, blah, blah. And the other, he comes back in the second half and puts up those numbers because in the first half he had 1 target, no catches.
Right.
And that was it. And then came back and put up those numbers, and I was like, oh, thank God, at least I have a fight now. You know, I have a chance going into Monday. But
your running backs woke up something fierce this week. Alvin Kamara, the first game of the season after serving his 3-game suspension, 13 receptions. But either way, that's 6.5 points off of just catching the ball. A man could have stood at 0 or the line of scrimmage and just caught the ball and put up 6.5 points. Is nuts. So still no touchdowns and only 51 yards rushing. So they used him pretty heavily with him making his season debut. So to me, that says this is clearly Alvin Kamara's backfield. And when Jamal Williams comes back, I mean, there may be a niche for him, but Alvin Kamara was a huge part of their offense.
I think when Williams comes back, he's going to be the goal line guy, if that makes sense. I think
Which is going to be terrible for you.
It was going to be horrible for me, yes.
David Montgomery coming back from injury. Man, what a great game. You got off to a great start for the week. 3 rushing touchdowns, 121 yards, and 20 receiving yards, and it was a pretty dominating game over Green Bay. I got close there towards the end because I guess Jordan Love was kind of like, whatever, we'll start throwing the ball a little bit. But, man, it's just absolutely dominating game, and David Montgomery put it on his shoulders. So, and I just want to highlight, you also have Dameon Pierce on the bench for a second week in a row. Dameon Pierce has put up double-digit points the last 2 weeks, so maybe he'll start get going with the success of C.J. Stroud in the passing game, start complementing that running game. So you might have a little bit of a gem there. That's something to keep an eye on. So jumping over to Kellen's team, huge day for Justin Jefferson, which, I mean, as a Panther fan, I could have told you was going to happen. Our secondary is banged up, but, I mean, Justin Jefferson, as I was watching the game, he just continued to keep moving, try to help Kirk Cousins when he was in trouble, and just always was open. I mean, that's what Justin Jefferson does. So that's why he continued, or he's the number 1 pick and continues to produce for Kellen. So
yeah.
Terry McLaurin, very solid game.
Solid game.
He got lucky. Now I know he put up 18 points, but really he just jumped on a fumble and ended up getting the touchdown. But hey, it is what it is, man. Kellen's going to take those points. Kellen's going to take those points.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gabe Davis was part of that thrashing of Miami. The Miami coming in after scoring 70 points thought that they were going to roll the Bills, and Josh Allen had other ideas. So
Josh Allen pretty much told him who runs the AFC.
Yeah, and that was a statement game. Absolutely, is a statement game. So Gabe Davis, though, let's look at the stats here. So yeah, he's 3 touchdowns, 4 games in. So 12 receptions, 3 touchdowns already. So there is more than one weapon in Buffalo.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Looking at Kellen's running backs, he's still very underwhelming. I'm not sold on Ramondre Stevenson, and I don't think it's because Ramondre's fault. I just don't trust a New England Patriot that's not named Gronkowski or Brady, and that's just really how it is, man. The game plan changes every week, so man, it's just hard to have that continuous success. So, and then finally to wrap it up, Dallas put up another dominating performance. If they're not, they probably should be the number 1 defense in fantasy. Just absolutely thrashing of the Patriots, 38-3. So, Kellen put up a good same thing with what we talked about Bowen. Kellen put up enough points to win. It's just this how this breaks sometimes, man. Yeah, congratulations to you. I know you needed that second win. So,
yeah, no, and it was funny because last night or Monday night, Cody had texted me right as the game pretty much was over. I had fallen asleep on the couch just watching the game, and then woke up to that text, and I said, there's no way. But for, Daniel Jones to have 3 interceptions and a fumble, he really didn't get anything going offensively. I think Waller only had 2 catches, right? 3 targets, 21 yards, 2 catches. Oh, he caught all 3. So he had 3 catches, 21 yards. I don't, and this is New York Giants football, I don't trust anybody on that offense. Saquon is great, don't get me wrong, but Saquon's not going to save an offense. It starts with the quarterback, and I think Daniel Jones is really starting to show who Daniel Jones really is. And I think it's about time for the Giants to kind of move away from that and see if they could figure something out down the line with the quarterback.
Well, I don't know how they can. I mean, they just gave him a huge contract extension. They paid him over Saquon, which, as hindsight, it looks bonkers.
Yeah, I don't understand. Daniel Jones is just not the answer. Kellen had, Jared Goff wasn't any better, but it would have gotten him the win, I believe.
Look,
it just comes down to whatever you feel that week. Plus, you got DJ Moore on the bench who scored 23, but you don't see that happening because Justin Fields hasn't shown you anything.
Yeah.
So it's a crapshoot, and it's unfortunate the way it came out. You lost by 2 points. That's just not. That's a bitter pill to swallow there. It's almost like how Bowen, but I know Bowen lost by a little bit more, but Bowen going into Monday night was like, I have this in the bag, and then boom, it's taken away from him like that.
One more thing for Kellen, what you brought up with the tight end play for Waller, he does. So Kellen got him early because from what I've seen with a lot of like waiver wire pickup articles for Week 5 and things like that, he does have Jake Ferguson already, which was going to be a pretty hot add this week.
Yeah.
And let's see, he's got 25 targets this year as a total and already caught 17 of them. So he seems to be a pretty favorite target of Dak. So that might be something to keep an eye on going forward to see how he continues to develop. He's only got 1 touchdown, but honestly, as we've discussed ad nauseum with the tight ends, is if you can just get some catches, especially with the half point, that might be enough to do her. So
it should help out for sure, because I don't know if Waller is somebody I would trust.
All right, so let's move on to Grizzly Adam Beers versus Steel City. Drew picking up the win over Shaq to send Drew to 2-2.
It was a decisive victory too. It was a pretty good one.
It was. I just don't get it, man. Like, Shaq's roster is very, very talented, and I just don't get why they're not performing for him every week.
Yep. On paper, it is. To me, it was one of the loaded teams going into the year.
Absolutely. And Mahomes, I don't know. It was just a fluke game because the Jets' defense is respectable, right? But, they were up 16-0.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they just decided that they were going to start the cruise control or what, but I just don't. He should have put up more than 13 points. And granted, 2 of that was from interceptions, he had 2 interceptions that dropped him 4 points, but this team is too talented to consistently underperform like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, if you're in his shoes right now, if you're in Shaq's shoes, I mean, would you trade? Would you trade for anything right now?
Well, here's the thing. If you want me to put myself in Shaq's shoes, Shaq would look at you and say no when you asked him for a trade.
So
it's
all right,
hard.
let's take ourselves out of Shaq's mindset. Let's say this is Xander's roster because you know Shaq is hilarious and stuck in his ways. But he actually, I think anytime I send him a trade, he's like, "Oh, Cody, decline every time."
Yeah. If I had Shaq's roster and it'd be so hard to hit the panic button right now because you're sitting there and you're looking at Jamar Chase, who's his first overall pick. A phenomenal talent. Then goes and gets Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback, arguably the best quarterback in the game. Travis Etienne, who I still feel like is a CMC waiting to happen. Swift has come along very nicely. He just got Watson back. The glaring weakness, which is a lot of people's weakness, is the tight end spot. But a lot of his team on paper is very, very solid to me.
And that's exactly how I feel. I mean, because you have the best quarterback in the NFL, and that man, there's no argument there. You have at this point going into the season top 2 wide receiver in Jamar Chase in a PPR format. Travis Etienne is a fantastic ad, and then the absolute gem the prize that took everyone off guard with DeAndre Swift. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, like there are every team in the LED right now would want those 4 players.
Yeah, 100%.
So why are they not performing? That's what I just don't get it. They're not able to string a solid performance together to get him a win. So, and to your point, this was Christian Watson's. I have here. This was Christian Watson's first game of the season. He did get a touchdown on 20. He only played 26 snaps last night. So I think they had him on a pitch count. So you could see an increase in play or some production from him when his snap count goes up.
Yeah, and that could be the gem for his wide receiver core. But it's hard to look at Chase and see him only putting up 10 points in a half PPR league now. That's difficult to look at. But would I pull the trigger on doing anything right now? No, probably not. I mean, yeah, 0-4 is rough to come back from. But we've had teams go into the playoffs, 7-6?
Shaq did it last year. Well, he didn't make the playoffs, but he started like 0-5 and
came
damn near got
back. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I play him this week. Don't hit the panic button just yet, Shaq. Because I don't know. I don't know what my team is going to do. I don't know if Taylor's coming back. I don't know if Cup's actually going to play this week. So and my team, is playing pretty decently right now, but he has a chance. And any given weekend that this team wants to show up, he's easily going to put up 120. I don't see him having an issue with that. It's just whether or not they want to show up.
So one last breakthrough. Patrick Mahomes, not worried about Patrick Mahomes. I mean, they're going to score a lot of points in Kansas City, and it all starts with him. Mm-hmm. I am a little worried about Jamar Chase, though. Like, I just don't understand why they're so sluggish in Cincinnati right now. And is it Joe Burrow's injury?
I would like to say a lot of it has to do with that, but I'm still not entirely sure. Now, going back to the whole idea of the trade for Shaq, the only person on that team that I feel like is going to get value right now is like Tua. Like not saying like he's going to, he can't get value for anybody that's starting for him. I'm just saying on his bench, if he's just trying to move pieces and keep his core together, Tua is the guy that he can unload, especially to like a Kellen who is struggling with the quarterback right now.
I mean, that's certainly possible, but I just, at least in my opinion, quarterbacks should not be valued as highly because as a whole, as a group, quarterbacks score so many points.
Sure.
And,
yeah.
But I mean, the perfect example right here, Mahomes scored 13 points and he was the number 1 quarterback off the board. So, and then you have Brock Purdy put up astronomical numbers.
Yeah.
So there's value to be found within those top 12. So if Shaq were to trade away to it, I just don't know if he'd get much in return. Is all as I just want to
True.
point out.
Yeah, and it would take a lot for me to, if I was Shaq, because he's going to get lowballed on it just because of what you said. It's a quarterback. And it's going to be hard for me to just say, yeah, F it, just send somebody out there just for the sake of sending somebody out there. But I will have to see. But his team is too good on paper to be doing what they're doing right now. Drew's team, on the other hand, up and down, consistency. That is a very consistent win. That's the only way I can describe it, honestly. Very consistent. And Williams, the running back from the Rams, hell of a pickup, sir. I'll give you that. It's a good one.
So yeah, I did. I mean, I got my notes here for Drew's team. I will start with Jordan Love. That might be the ugliest 17 points performance I've ever seen in my life. When I saw it was 17, I was a little bit surprised because I mean the Packers got drug that game. They got absolutely
second
destroyed.
half, right? Second half points that 17 came from.
It very well may have been garbage time stuff. I mean that still counts, but
Yeah.
I mean they got absolutely drugged. So, and he had 2 interceptions, so conceivably it could have been a 21-point night. Which, if you look at that, you would have thought, man, he had a great game. Or that was a very close game for the Packers. No, they got absolutely drugged. CeeDee Lamb, only 4 catches. Only 4 catches this week, which is a little concerning for someone that you take that high. The offense is not as explosive as I would have thought them to be. And again, I just wonder if that's the change in offensive coordinator. So, I mean, that's something to keep in mind too. So he did salvage the day. He got 1 touchdown. It was actually his first touchdown of the season in week 4.
Really?
So, yep.
I did not know that. That's surprising.
I mean, are you concerned about CD's production right now at this point?
I'll put it to you this way. Dallas would not be 3-1 if it wasn't for that defense.
Absolutely.
That offense does not
I agree wholeheartedly.
look like they're Tony Pollard. I'm not saying anything bad about Tony Pollard. I think he's a hell of a running back. He's not getting off to an incredible start like everybody thought he was. The thing with it is I think Pollard did a lot of his best work when he was playing with another player that can go with him, a.k.a. Zeke. So I don't really know what's going on there. Dak is good, but he's not great. He's not going to be the guy that puts you over the edge. The way I look at Dallas is they're going to get to the playoffs, and if that defense decides to just not do anything, Dallas is going to lose again. Because I don't see Dak being that guy that can put together the most important drive of the game. I just don't. And CD's suffering from it. You can see that. They don't really have – I'm not saying that they don't have weapons. They're just not great. Like Gallup has been there for 4 or 5 years now, something like that. He's just there.
Yeah, he had a good game Sunday, but that was –
you're
right. To your point, though, they are not consistent, and they come very sporadically.
Yeah. So I don't think Dallas would be where they're at if it wasn't for that unbelievable defense. And even without Diggs right now on that defense, they still look they're intimidating because of how good they are up front. It's just, I don't know how far that offense will take them. And yet, to your point, saying CeeDee Lamb getting taken that high, you expect more. You really
absolutely.
do. And he salvaged, like you said, his week with that touchdown, but you expect a lot more from him.
I agree full-heartedly. Moving on, Calvin Ridley came back a little bit better this week. He put up nearly 11 points, up from the 5.5 he had last week. But since we're talking about players to be concerned about, this isn't a reflection on Calvin Ridley, but your boy Trevor Lawrence. What's going on, man?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you, honestly. I don't know if it's, you know how like some teams have that one-off where they're, playoff bound and they have that incredible game in the playoffs and they, that riding that high, and then they go into the next year and they're just flat. So I don't know if it has something to do with that. I also don't know if the offensive line has gotten worse because I believe there was an offensive tackle that went to Kansas City from Jacksonville. I don't know if that's worse. I don't know if he's just trying to fit too many passes in now to like Ridley and Zay Jones and Christian Kirk and trying to spread it out too much or trying to do too much with it because he's trying to make everybody happy. I don't really know what's going on with Trevor Lawrence. again, Ridley saved his day with a touchdown. So
He did.
a couple of, Drew's 2 top receivers saved their days with touchdowns. So,
Yes.
but,
And
I mean, hell, it's 6 points. So,
yep.
Yeah,
And
I
he
don't
actually
know.
had more production on his bench too. With he picked up Josh Palmer for the Chargers too. So I mean, there are options. I should say there are options at wide receiver if he chooses to, move some things around like that.
Yeah.
But
he's in a good spot.
he's just got to have more production from CeeDee Lamb. That's all.
Yeah.
While we're trashing the wide receivers, let's talk about how awesome Drew's running backs were, because they were awesome.
Phenomenal.
They were absolutely awesome. Xander touched on earlier, Kyron Williams putting up 26.2 points, 103 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. But what I want to focus on is he is clearly the number one back now with Cam Akers gone. He has elite level rushing volume. He had 25 carries yesterday, which is that was like peak Zeke Elliott, peak Adrian Peterson. Like they were like minimum 25 carries. Like that's just how dominant those are. So that's the kind of rushing production you want to have going forward.
Yeah.
And as you touched on earlier, the great pickup.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic pickup.
Moving on, Isaiah Pacheco, also elite level production. He had 20 carries for 115 yards and a single rushing touchdown, 43 yards receiving. He was the offense for Kansas City last night. Patrick Mahomes couldn't do anything. They couldn't get Kelsey going or any of the receivers, but Isaiah Pacheco, he was running very angry all night. I mean, he just ripping off huge play after huge play. So that is very encouraging if you're a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, he's turned it up the last couple weeks for sure.
The only running back here that didn't have a good week is Miles Sanders. Was in his flex, only put up 4.7 points. He looks like, let's see here. He had, I know they tried their best to give it to him. They gave him 13 attempts and only picked up 19 yards. And
yeah,
dude, it's just so frustrating as a Panthers fan.
Yeah, Sanders was kind of. I don't know if Drew had a fight with himself internally on whether or not he was going to put him in the flex, but I know they're your boys. That offense is so rocky right now, and it's not a shot at Bryce Young or anything like that. It's just they're so inconsistent, and they're playing from behind. And I know Sanders is good off the catch. I'm not saying that, but it's just not happening. It's just not clicking for him. And I'm not saying that Sanders should be dropped or anything like that. I think Sanders is a good stash away player. I think you keep him there just if you need him, but I don't know if he's worthy of a flex spot right now until I see something different out of that Carolina offense. But right now, it's just so hard for me to look at Sanders or Thielen or Mingo or Shark and say, yeah, they're consistent enough for me to keep them on the roster and start them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, the only one I'll push back on is Thielen is he's putting up like 11, 12 points a week for Chris Bowen.
The only reason
I would hold on to him. So
I dropped him. But.
Listen, we could talk all night about how bad or what are the offensive problems with the Carolina Panthers, but I'm not going to bore everyone with that because it's honestly not. It's absolutely pointless at this point. So all the point is there's not many offensive or fantasy points to be had from the team that's in Charlotte. I'm just going to put it like that.
Yeah, and that was the thing, too, that I was a little confused with, too. He started Ford last week, Drew did, but benched him this week. I don't know if he'll go back to that this upcoming week in week 5 or what his plan is with that, but I think he just – I don't know if Kareem Hunt's scaring him now.
That's the only thing I can think of, but he'll have to at least ride with Miles Sanders one more time because Cleveland's on a bye next week, so he'll have to roll the dice at least once more.
Yeah. Or you could put in Tank Dell.
Or maybe Saquon just decides he wants to
come back.
Yeah,
and then he has a 3-headed monster in running back.
We'll move on to our last game. Our last game we're going to discuss this week, the Dirty Skivvies taking on the Peeping Tomlinsons. Now, this probably – well, we always had our guesses or what we think is going to be the game of the week. This was the game of the week. The score doesn't necessarily reflect that, but this was our number 2 team taking on our number 3 team. Yeah. So that was a big clash to have. I want to start with Brendan. Brennan had a very solid game. Justin Herbert, like his stat line just is not very sexy right now, but his point total is great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's
Yeah,
all we care about is the points.
Yeah, no, points mean everything in fantasy, not in the actual NFL. So,
I mean, he only had 167 yards passing, and he put up 23 points.
yeah, he did a lot with his feet, though, I believe, didn't he?
Yes, and my personal belief for that is because I think when they were like, "Oh snap, Eckler's out, we need to start getting Josh Kelly going." I think somewhere along this week they told Josh Kelly like, "Yo, man, it's not going to happen this week. I mean, you're going to be in the game," because they ran Herbert like 12, 13 times, or he like release ran. But at the same time, Josh Kelly took it personal, and he went the hell off this week. So who knows?
That, Herbert scoring wasn't. It was goal line sneaks, wasn't it? And then he had, I think,
2 rushing touchdowns. 2 rushing touchdowns. He did have 1 passing touchdown to Keenan Allen, which good on Brendan for having the Herbert Allen stack. He picked up 10 points on that play minimum.
I feel like it's every year he has that stack, but
listen, if you can pull off being a homer and have your hometown players on your team and it work out, I mean, that I don't know if it gets much better than that, because you don't. Yeah. Do you start feeling dirty like when you're like if you're watching the Steelers play and they're playing the Ravens and you're like, bro, shit, I got Mark Andrews on there. You're like, do you not feel dirty for doing that?
Not one bit, because fantasy not one bit.
I mean, I'll tell you, it does stress me out. I'm telling you,
it does. Oh no, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's just how I felt this weekend. That's why I didn't start Pierce. If that makes any sense, that's why I was just like, I'm not going to start Pierce this week.
Oh, see,
it was between. Well, you got to think. Whenever I put in Montgomery, it was 5 minutes before game time, and then Kamara I was just going to put in regardless. So
yeah,
but.
So yeah, I am not hating on Brendan. Actually, I'm pretty jealous of the particular situation he's in, being able to have a quarterback and receiver that good, and you're able to play him for your home team. So, anyway, we touched on Keenan Allen got 1 receiving touchdown, which he ended up saving his day for that. He only had 3 catches with 32 yards, and one of them just happened to be a touchdown. So he ended up putting up 10.7 points, which is it's solid. It wasn't his projection. He came in under his projection, but you'll take 10 points anytime you can get them. So moving on to Amon-Ra St. Brown, a great performance on Thursday night. As we talked about that Packers-Lions game, it was a dominating performance by David Montgomery, yet Amon-Ra St. Brown still found a way to make a touchdown. 56 yards, 5 receptions. So again, Amon-Ra continues to be top 5, top 8 wide receiver in this league right now, because he's getting targets and he's getting great production. So
yeah, he's consistent. He's doing great. Golf, obviously, it's clear that's his favorite target. So I mean, he's just it's a very good. He's got a very good receiving core. Brendan does. I do like his receiving core for sure.
Yeah, I also like I like the Marvin Mims pickup. It didn't really.
Yeah, it didn't make sense at first. And now,
it didn't come to fruition this week, but I don't know if you saw the same thing I saw, but he's putting up 19 points in week 2, 15 points in week 3.
He is. I was reading something on him earlier. Sean Payton just doesn't play him all the time, but he's taken advantage of every opportunity he gets. And until Sean Payton finally realizes this is the guy, I mean, he's going to have a hell of a year if he finally sees the field more than, 30 snaps or 25 snaps or whatever he's getting right now.
I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong. Just tell me what you think, because on that particular note you just made, I think the Broncos offense is pretty decent for fantasy. I mean, they're not elite, but I mean, Russell Wilson's putting up good numbers as quarterback, and he's targeting Cortland Sutton pretty heavily, but also Jerry Judy's making some noise. So
yeah, so Russell Wilson last 3 weeks, 25.92, 14.24, 22.22. So the offense isn't – I don't think the offense is the problem. I think a lot of it has to do with the defense.
Yeah, it very well could be. Moving on here, Brian Robinson continues to be Probably the next franchise back for the old Commanders there.
Yeah.
He's averaging 10 points a week. So I mean, you'll take that as a running back too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just awesome.
Also, very good pick, Brian Robinson. I think a lot of people were scared of him, didn't really know what he was capable of.
Sam Laporta came in under projection this week, but I mean, still 4 receptions on 56 yards. I mean, he's still one of Jared Goff's favorite targets. So he finished in the neighborhood of Travis Kelce. So I mean,
I might be getting a jersey. I don't know. He's like next year we're all going to be talking about it, and he may sneak his way into the top 4 tight ends for next year's conversation of who.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean. Instead of it being like Kittle, Andrews, and Kelce, it might be Andrews, Kelce, and Laporta, because Kittle's not really being Kittle right now.
Kittle's got too much talent around him.
Yes, that's another reason
to be dominant. So
yeah.
So we'll slide over to Joe's team, and I'm going to go on record, and I know you're going to say, like, well, Cody's just doing his reverse psychology BS, but, like, listen, I don't care. Joe can call collusion if he wants, but Joe right now, his roster is the best roster in the LED, and I don't even think it's that close. Dominant performance by Josh Allen, putting up 36.5 points, which we talked about. I think Buffalo was trying to make a statement with that game. I think they wanted to go out there and absolutely drag the Dolphins. So
yeah.
I think me and you talked about this before the show, but Debo was hurt. So Debo only put up 0.6 of a point, but Debo was out there just playing decoy, from my understanding.
Mm.
So, I mean, that's something to keep an eye on. He didn't have an injury designation right now, but I think it's his knee. Yeah, or excuse me, his knee/ribs is what Yahoo says. So he's a little banged up. But what won the game for Joe is the best player in fantasy football, the fantasy cheat code, Christian McCaffrey. 3 rushing touchdowns. See, they can't even fit all the stats on the side of the screen. That's how good his day was. He had 3 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown, 106 yards rushing, and 71 yards receiving, and 7 receptions. I mean, he's a cheat code.
It's just stupid numbers. Like, it's just dumb numbers.
Yeah, I mean, that's straight up video game numbers. That's like, playing on rookie mode Madden. That's just how good he is.
Basically is what it is, yeah.
So, I mean, there's not much to say. That's why you take McCaffrey number 1. I know Joe got him at number 2, but that's he, to me, he has been for the last several years the best player in fantasy football across the board. We were just so worried about his injury risk. That's what scared us off. But he seems to be healthy. I think he's at 13 or 14 straight games with a touchdown. I think he broke Jerry Rice's record. Rice's record.
Yeah, the San Francisco record, yeah. Or I think that's all time, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, well, it may not be like NFL, but he definitely broke.
He definitely broke San Francisco's.
Correct.
It's nuts. Just nuts.
Kenneth Walker had a long touchdown that was called back. I don't know if you watched it or that was part of the game you were watching, but he was tackled and then they correct, and then he got up and running, like they didn't call the play dead. Mm-hmm. So he could have had a much bigger night. He still had a pretty respectable night because he had a rushing touchdown with almost 80 yards rushing. So
good night.
Yeah, could have had a much, much bigger night if that touchdown had stood. But one thing I did want to mention, it looks like Zach Charbonnet is starting to like cut into his carries, which they were very excited about Zach Charbonnet to start the season, and it's starting to look like he's cutting into some carries a little bit. So that might be something to keep an eye on if you're Joe.
Yeah.
Fine. I mean, Tyler Bass, he putting up almost 15 points. I know. All right. So this is not really, we don't really like break down kickers a whole lot, but how do you feel about the current kicker setting in the LED?
I like it. I mean, I think kickers deserve a little bit more respect. And the way we got it set up now, if you get 41-yard field goal, you get 4.1. I like that. I think it's good for, I think it's good for the league because it's going to make you think about who you want and who's actually producing at that spot instead of taking Justin Tucker. Not saying you're going to drop Justin Tucker, but if you have Justin Tucker and he's not producing, what do? You got to find somebody that actually will be. Like, I went out and got Fairbairn from Houston because Carlson just wasn't getting it done. And Carlson's a pretty decent name around the league, and he wasn't getting it done. And then when I looked at his stats, he's consistently putting over 12 points a game. And I'm like, I hope I didn't just jinx myself, but that's what I looked at. I looked at what he can bring for my team and another way of scoring because I need that right now.
So my opinion of it is, I mean, I do love the settings because, damn it, kickers are people too, and people forget that they're not the sexy like highlight play kicks or anything like that. But kickers are often the highest scoring players in the league because they kick 9, 12 points a game, and so to me, like when you start like which kicker am I going to start this week, it's really just kind of a crapshoot because you don't know. But I do think the kicker who's going to go out there and kick. So we've just got a defensive stalemate, and no one can just get to the end zone. If we got kickers exchanging 40 to 50-yard field goals, and we get like a 12 to 15 game, I mean they're scoring points, and they should be compensated as such in our league. So I do like it. So I just know I've not heard anyone from our league complain, but I've heard from like the fantasy community that like several leagues just get rid of kickers altogether. They get rid of kickers and tight ends.
I don't think that's I think kickers are important to keep because I mean, how many times have we had games in the 12 years, 13 years that we've been doing this come down to whether or not a kicker kicks the field goal? Now the points weren't the same, but some games have come down to 1 or 2 points, and a field goal is your way of winning or losing. So I don't agree with getting rid of kickers. I enjoy the kickers having some more respect. I think it's probably, and for me, it's better for the league because it's make or break. I mean, yeah, you get 123 yards from a kicker, it's 12.3.
Yeah,
I mean,
and some people will hate that. Again, no one in the L.E.D has told that to me, but there are people in the fantasy community that just cannot stand that. But I'm like, if you look at it, they are some of the highest scoring players in the league, and most often are at the top of the like who scored the most points this season. It's most of the time it's kickers.
Yeah.
So to me, it makes sense. I just wanted your opinion on that. Because I saw that.
I agree with you. I like kickers.
Well, that's the last game.
Yeah. So you know what that means. Matchup of the week, baby. We got to pick a matchup of the week. We had a request from a guy about it was Friday, I believe. I'm not going to name names, but his team begins with Huge and ends with Hefner. And he said, stop picking me as the game of the week. So I'm going to divert from that, and I'm not going to pick him. My game of the week is I want Bowen so badly to get a win. That's my game of the week. Right now, it's close in points. Bowen, I want you to get that W, buddy. I want you to go to what, 2 and 3. Come on, get out of the cellar, get out of the gutter, bring yourself back into the fight.
You know what? No, I'm also going to join you on Bowen and Kellen because those are two teams that are at pretty like pivotal points of their league. I mean, or points of their season because Kellen's our defending champ. He's on a 3-game slide, so. I mean, it could get ugly quick for him if he didn't start turning around. I mean, again, his team is super talented as well, and we went over that earlier tonight. But Bowen has probably lost some games that he should have won, and they're at a 50-50 draw right now. So I'm going to join you. I'm going to go with Bowen and Kellen for the game of the week.
Yeah, this is the battle of the best and the worst of last year. If you think about it, this is the princess versus the champ. This matchup, but this is a different year, Kellen. Get that out of your head, okay? Bowen's coming for blood this week. I'm telling you, he's been coming for blood all year, but he's gotten screwed.
Well, Kellen actually told me that there's been so much disrespect on his name right now that he's just looking to steamroll Bowen this week. So,
Bowen, you better take that as fighting words, okay? I want to see this team put up 150 bomb on him. But yeah, that's all we got. Again, trades, I'm not going to touch on it again. It's so bizarre that there's no trades going on. But if there is, again, we will not discuss it until after everything is said and final. So you won't hear anything from us about it until everything's done with that. Other than that, I think we're in the first week of buys. So
yes,
everybody
true.
Hopefully has a roster that can control while they're missing some of their players. But just keep that in mind as you go through the weeks. make sure you have a full roster and don't get to the point where you're kind of getting screwed. That's about all I got. Drew, we missed you this week, buddy.
Man.
Usually a 3-man crew, and I know I missed 1 week, and it's not that it didn't go good. It's just Three Musketeers, man. You got to get that band back together.
No kidding. Cool. Well, see y'all. See y'all next week.